You don't hate social media, but you've never felt at home in it either. You scroll, you watch stories, you keep up with people you care about. You just don't post your own photos, not your face, not your life, not even on special occasions. And when someone asks why, you don't really have an answer. You might say, I just don't feel like it, or I don't really care about posting. But the truth is, it's never that simple. Because you've thought about it, you've hovered over the upload button, you've picked a photo, you've stared at it longer than you'd like to admit. And then, you close the app. Psychologically, that hesitation says more than people realize. For many people, not posting photos isn't about insecurity. It's about discomfort with imprecise perception. Once a photo is out there, it's no longer yours. It becomes something people interpret, compare, judge, or scroll past in half a second. And even if no one says anything, you feel it. You imagine how it might land, who might see it, what they might think or not think. And suddenly, the moment feels exposed. So you don't post, not because you don't like how you look, but because you don't like the vulnerability of being reduced to an image. For others, it's the performance aspect that feels off. Posting photos turns ordinary moments into decisions. Which picture? Which angle? Which version of the moment feels acceptable to share? And once you notice that shift, it's hard to ignore. You realize the moment changes the second it's meant for an audience. It stops being something you're in and starts becoming something you're presenting. Some people don't like that trade. They don't want their memories filtered through likes or silence. They don't want to wonder whether a moment was good enough based on engagement. So they keep certain parts of their life offline, not because they're hiding, but because they want the experience to stay intact. There are also people who don't post photos because they're tired of comparison. They know how it works. Even when you logically understand that social media is curated, your nervous system still reacts. You still compare. You still measure. You still feel a subtle sense of being behind. So instead of constantly placing themselves inside that feedback loop, they step back. Not because they're immune to insecurity, but because they're aware of it. They know that repeatedly seeing yourself reflected through numbers and reactions slowly trains you to look at yourself from the outside. And they don't want that to become their default. Then there are people whose identity simply isn't built around visibility. They don't feel more real when they're seen. They don't feel validated by public acknowledgement. Their sense of self exists quietly, without needing reinforcement. They know who they are without proof. This is often why they don't feel an urge to announce milestones, achievements, or even happiness. Not because those things don't matter, but because sharing them doesn't add to the experience. Sometimes it actually subtracts. People who don't post photos aren't disengaged from life. They're often deeply present in it. They value conversations over impressions, relationships over reactions, experiences that stay whole instead of being reduced to an image. They prefer being in the moment rather than trying to capture something social media worthy. So if you don't post your photos, there's nothing wrong with you. It doesn't mean you're insecure. It doesn't mean you're antisocial. It doesn't mean you're hiding. It might simply mean that you don't experience yourself through an audience. And in a world that constantly asks you to show yourself, choosing not to can feel quietly grounding. Because some people don't need to be seen to feel real. They already are.